Peace, and welcome to Esoteric Daydreams, the awakening, where I know the nightmare was scary. The Abrahamic system that you thought you knew, but that's just the daydream that you thought you woke up from. Because this system is way more deeper than you think, right? So let's get into this, right? What is the name of this show? King of the Gypsies, Freemasonry, and the Traveling Man. Right? We'll be getting into what does this mean, right? What does it mean when you hear the rough and rugged road? We will be breaking this down. This will be what the concept of this whole show was about. But before we begin, let me say, please hit the like, the subscribe, and the notification bell so you can be notified whenever new content is uploaded or we go live like now. And don't hesitate to hit the share. Let people know this is out there, man. Don't keep this a secret. This is esoteric, daydreams. We here to reveal the esoteric secrets, right? So don't hide it. Let it out there, right? And by the way, check out my book, Street Skelzy, Knock 'em Out the Box. It's about two brothers from opposite sides of the law who must team up in order to find their father's killer or killers, right? Now, this is a fast-paced book that takes place within the tri-state area. It's about a well-established businessman named Pennell Purple. Now, he has two sons. One happens to be named one happens to be named Skelzy, right? Now, he's the street dog. He got a brother who happens to be a New York City detective. Now, they team up in order to find their father's killers with one clue. The clue is a ring that his father was wearing happened to pop up in the strip club of one of his close friends out in the Bronx. That takes them on a wild goose chase along with, an exotic dancer who has the ability of, not only identifying but taking them to the area from which they possibly could be from. This is Street Skelzy, Knock 'em Out the Box. Now, I also have another book that that I got out. It's also on Amazon Books. It's called Freemasonry and Yanni Worship, which is about, a lot of the things that we talk here, but it's more condensed. So these are the things, that we go on. Now, a lot of this information that I'm presenting will be a part of three separate books that I'm actually working on now. If I actually succeed on getting them out or not, who knows? But nonetheless, this is what it is, right? Okay, the rough and rugged road, right? So, if you don't know what the gypsies are, we're gonna find out. As you see, I put a lot, the name of the persons that you'll be seeing along with the pictures are not the same. I use the identities of black people for us to identify this within our community, right? So I just use these pictures for you to go, okay, I can see this structure now. King of the Gypsies. The title King of the Gypsies has been claimed or given over the centuries to many different people. It is both cultural and geographically specific. It may be inherited, acquired by accumulations of action, or simply claimed. The extent of the power associated with the titles varied. It might be limited to a small group in a specific place, or many people or large areas. In some areas, in some cases, the claim was clearly a public relations exercise, as the term gypsy is also used in many different ways. The king of gypsies may be someone with no connection with the Roma. Now, let me also say, please, if I understand that, the term gypsy is considered, derogatory. So, I'm just going off those who feel proud enough to call themselves king of the gypsies, and I'm using this imagery for people to understand how this is actually within the urban communities abroad. King of the gypsies. It has also been suggested in places where their crimes were prosecuted closely by local authorities. The king of the gypsies is an individual, usually of low standings, who places himself in the risky position of an ad hoc liaison between the Roma and the G.O.D, non-Roma. The arrest of such a king limited the criminal liability of the Roma. Baguria Mustafa Shabil. Shabil, who was killed in 1856, claimed the title during his time in the Balkan Mountains near Slovene during and after the Crimean War. The Gypsy King is associated with mystical powers and being able to part water with his sword, a spade, in his head after it has been cut off, according to the tales collected in 1981 from the Romani people in Bulgaria. Right, so we know your boy here, he was claiming all type of mystical powers, right? He had a clan with him. They were committing crimes, right? Right. In England, the Boswells were, for centuries, one of England's largest and most important gypsy families. The Boswell clan were a large extended family of travelers, so we know traveling man, right? And in old Nottinghamshire dialect, the word Basel was used as a term for travelers and Roma in general. Hence, many claiming the title King of the Gypsies came from the Boswell family. Right? And now Boswell was the son of Francis Boswell. Jacob Rubru, alias King of the Gypsies, from St. Margaret's, Westminster, was tried at the Old Bailey on the 28th of August, 1700, for the theft with violence in highway robbery. It was alleged he had robbed one Rebecca Sellers near the highway, taken from her 3 gold rings and 9s, and I guess in silver and money. In January of that year, the jury found him guilty of theft, but not robbery, as it appeared that he tricked her out of it. And he was sentenced to penal transportation. Right, so pay attention to the actions and the things that they are doing. Trick, we talk about trick knowledge, right? So this is a system, and we will be getting more deeper into this, right? We also know this symbol, the Freemasonic symbol right here, but let's check this out. right, is buried in Rosington near Doncaster in Yorkshire. Langdale's Topographical Dictionary of Yorkshire, 1822, says, in the churchyard was a stone, and two ends of which are now remaining, where was interred the body of James Boswell, the king of the Gypsies, who died 30 January 1708. For a number of years, it was custom for gypsies from the south to visit his tomb annually and there perform some of their accustomed rites, one of which is to pour the flagon of ale upon the grave. This is similar to the ritual of staling the rogue mentioned by Thomas Herman in the Beggar's Bush and by Bamfield Moore Carthew. James Boswell. The tradition was reported of annual visits to the grave of Charles Boswell near Doncaster for more than 100 years. Pay attention, this stuff matters. Into the 1800s, including a rite of pouring the flagon of hot ale into the tomb. This may be the same person. The grave is situated by the main door leading to the church, shaded by the dark oak tree. It is now covered in moss, but it is still readable, my fault. The word King of the Gypsies will lie there forevermore, whereas the mystery of the black cat is still unsolved. Information on the grave by A. Needham of St. Michael's Church. Now, mind you, this church is, associated with the thieves, right? Robert Boswell, right? Now, I know you see a female there, but, give it a chance. Not some trans stuff. Give it a chance, right? Right. Born 1735 in Wiltshire, buried in Lauderdale's Dorchester in January 1806. With this monument reading King of the Gypsies, Robert is likely the father of Lucy, the wife of Joseph Smith. Lucy died in Holton, Chester. However, her burial took place in Brighton, Derbyshire. For unknown reasons, Lucretia, if I'm getting the name wrong, y'all get it. Right? Every time I look at it, I know I'm getting it wrong. I'm going to just say Lucy. Grave bear the inscription Queen of the Gypsies, which has resulted in numerous folk tales surrounding her life. In 1989, a pub was constructed nearby and was given the name Gypsy Queen. Right? Now this is gonna still matter. Don't misunderstand now. The king of the Gypsies died in 1760 at the age of 90 and was buried in Lickleford near Hitchin, Hertfordshire, at the Church of St. Catherine, at where his wife and granddaughter, Royal National and Commercial Directory and Typograph of Hertz, Pickett and Company, London. I don't know what that bottom part was there for, but I didn't want to leave it out. Maybe somebody else know, right? Edmund Mastrier, a.k.a. Old Honey, died in Bolton, Lancaster in 1811, age 90. I want you to pay attention to these dates and how this progression happens, okay? It was reported to have been justified and titled the King of Beggars, having been on the road for 70 years. He was reported to have been the son of a schoolmaster and well educated, but to have taken to the road by choice and maintained a wandering life until he became bedridden. Described as, this is Harry Burton, right? Described as the king of the gypsies, died in the workhouse. Workhouse is prison, right? In Winchester, Somerset, age 94 in 1847. Absalom Smith was noted as the king of the gypsies. Upon his death, age 60 in 1826, in Tarford, Chester, whatever, right? Chestershire. His funeral on 10 February 1826 saw over 60 gypsies in attendance, and Manchester Times reported he had been elected as king at the first half of the 19th century and was recorded special burial rituals. You know, Freemasonry have these burial rituals, right? And with the ceremony attended with travelers, families, and travel 12 camps. Pay attention to that. What do we know has 12 camps, right? 19th century, and was accorded special burial with the ceremony attended with by travel families from 12 camps. He was a well-known fiddler in the local area, often playing at wakes and celebration, and had a daughter, Betita Smith, a renowned beauty whose portrait was displayed in Bellovia Castle. Matty Cooper taught the Romani language in the 1870s to Charles Godfrey Leland, 1824-1930, an American folklorist and founder of the Gypsy Law Society. Leland claimed Cooper was the king of the gypsies in England. Now remember, you know, Pac used to scream thug life, right? You know, he had his, little followers and whatnot. And I'm gonna break down the whole thing of why Pac even came out with Illuminati in the first place, right? Pac is one of my favorite people in the world, so I'm not going to say anything disparaging, about Pac, right? Not that I would find disparaging. Now there's things that is what it is. Xavier Pechagori Smith was described as the king of the gypsies in an account of his Roma wedding to Belle Dawn in Yorkshire in 1937. Between his son Leon Pechagori Smith and Elena Smith, both of Colchester, Essex, and according to the caption in the photography of the photographer, Xavier Pechagori cut the hands of the couple to mingle their blood during the ceremony. After the wedding, the couple went north to Blackpool. During the war, Leon was the RAF and Eileen was the staff car driver for ICI. The marriage was dissolved in 1947 in Nottingham. Beldon was a famous fair and meeting place for gypsies. Petrogoro Smith was well known as a broadcaster on gypsy subjects. His son, Leon Portugoro, Petrolegnero, whatever, and Smith wrote for the Women's Own magazine. Gedori Scamp, born in Optigarton, Kent in 1812, and was known as the king of the Kentish gypsies, lived in Folkestone, Kent, and was a boxer and scissor grinder. I did you just, pay attention to the pictures, right? Lewis Welch, a darling of Darlington, was described as by British media as the king of the gypsies, a title given to the best bare knuckle boxer and the romancer, mainly from the UK and French community. Following the alleged attack by 6 knife-wielding men, possibly from a rival band of travelers in Cumbria, he refused to give evidence against his attackers, saying it was against the travelers' code of honor, and a retrial was ordered after the jury failed to reach the verdict. Right? So remember, there's two sides to Freemasonry, right? There's the upright, and then there's, those who walk the rough and rugged, and the transformation, to make them these well-groomed, citizens, right? We'll see these clans, right, as they're called, in this structure, right? We'll understand how this works. And so you'll be thinking that you're entering something black or whatever. This is what I mean. When I found out, these certain things, I stepped back. From this, you'll find out that they're really run by the government. These gangs and whatnot, yes, they're the government. And I'm going to have a whole series on this again, right? I mean, with how, the payday comes off in a great way, right? Tamas Bogar, he was named as Voivode of the Pharaoh's people. Pay attention to that. In 1494, he seemed to have led a group of metal workers, as he was supposedly the bishop of Pex, with cannonballs, my fault. He was almost certainly the same person granted privileges by the King of Poland in Lithuania in 1505. He also recognized the privileges of Wassily, a leader of the chicanery. I don't know what that is, so I should have did my research on it, but I didn't. Sakarasmia, right? I'm probably saying that wrong, right? But this is, think about these masks from drama, the theater, right? The keys, the King of the Gypsies is suggested as a possible model for a Gotiki head of the sketches of human epistemologists by Leonardo da Vinci, dating to 1503-1507. Geragio Vespertius reported that Leonardo had done a drawing of the gypsy captain, right, Sakyaki, Sakrakamaka, which Vasari proposed by it is known what happened to it. Now you got to look at the carnivals. Look into the carnivals of Venice. That's real deep. Something you really want to look into, because that's when you look up this person's name, right? It'll lead you to, the carnivals, and that's what you want to look into. Shakamachi, or Sakamoch, right, is a stock clown character in the 16th century Commedia dell'arte, right? Look into that. That's what I'm talking about. The name Sakurachi came from the Italian word, which means brief fight or controversy of little importance. It could roughly translate to scuffle or skirmish, but those English terms hardly convey the nuance of the Italian word, which implies gratuitousness, pettiness, and more often than not, a clownish behavior. Right, but understand what all of these means. The brief fight, the knuckle game. Right. This is how you know the king of the gypsies. In the 1920s. This is before, all of these guns and all of that nonsense. This is how you knew who was in charge of things, right? So if it ever went back to the Stone Age, these are the niggas who's taking over, right? Just so you understand. This is why they honored, and all of that, because it's what it is. They keep the control of the underworld. Kingpins, right, to an extent, right? In the 1980s, Polycarp Caracalli began styling himself king of all gypsies in Norway. In the 1990s, while most of the family was serving prison times, Polycarp, grandson Martin Eric Caroli, right, proclaimed himself king of 1 million gypsies, claiming to be slated for 100 of years old crowning ceremony in Central Europe. After Polkrak's death in 2001, his two sons publicly rivaled for the title King of all Gypsies in the world, estimating 47.8 million subjects throughout the world, and citing various ancient ceremonies and royal registries. Ceremonies, ancient ceremonies. Right? How did I do that? I don't even know. Okay. Oh, I didn't know I can do it like that. Oh, my fault. Okay. Matt Tizzy says Coral Lewis. Listen, man, I be trying and I be embarrassed of myself, but I don't care. Was conferred the title King of the Gypsies by the Polish Royal Chancery in 1852 after the death of Janzi, who had previously served as head of the Roma. Later kings of the Gypsies seem to have been appointed from aristocracy. Meaning they didn't really put in the work, it was just passed down to them. Right? Kidweek family is in Quickie family. In the interwar period of the Quickie family, I'm hoping I'm saying that right, became almost a royal dynasty of the Roma in Poland, with some recognition by local police and government officials. One member of the dynasty, Januzzi Quink, was formally recognized by the Archbishop of Warsaw in 1937 and was subsequently crowned as Janos Honos. Maybe, there might be like Spanish with it's the H, right? And one. And the National Army Stadium before thousands of people, with several European heads of state invited. He announced his intention to petition Bettino Mussolini. Now pay attention to this. For land for the Roma settlement in East Africa. The plan that failed because Mussolini's alliance with Nazi Germany, which recommended that the Roma population be eliminated. Now remember, right, Nazi Germany was against the Freemasons. So if you understand that these are what they are referring to, Hitler was not with a lot of stuff that you might think. Right, he's the third Reich, and I'm not caping for him. No, none of these Europeans am I caping for. I'm just saying, you have to understand the full context, right? Lou Giulio Reduci in 1931, Lulin proclaimed himself emperor of all Rome everywhere. What I'm saying about Hitler is we need to implement these within our own community, meaning that none of these people, none of these things that is on us. You know what I'm saying? We the fourth right. Then if that's the third right, no, I take that back. I'm not saying it like that, carrying it out like him. But I'm saying once you understand this, you name it whatever you want, right? But understand the psychology. We'll be going through this, right? I just want to clear that up. I just don't want to make it seem like I'm, anti-Semitic or something. I'm just saying that system is what he was against. This system, right? Florine Secoba, Florid Chicobia, acquired the title King of Roma everywhere in 1997 from his father Leon Chicobia, who had claimed the title in 1992. Reports in 2003 that Caobia, a Pentecostal minister, had married off his own daughter at age 12 or 14, caused uproar in Western media. The UN Economic and Social Civilian visited him in 1991 when preparing to report on racism and intolerance, and described, right, and described, where we at? Rejected, my fault. Racism and intolerance, and described him as devoting himself to the economic activity and human community projects, in exerting moral authority and having some influence as a counselor. He died on 18th August 2013 after suffering a heart attack while on holiday in Antalya, Turkey. He was succeeded as king by his son Doran Kyoba. Right? After his father Florine Kyobia passed away in 2013. During Kyobia took the role of King of Roma everywhere. He has been trying ever since to solve one of the recurring issues in Gypsy culture. Children getting married at young ages, as he himself a subject of the practice. Army of King of Egypt. Wait, Arms of King of Egypt from Namra White Castle Armoral. Right, now this is in Scotland, so we understand that we're about to understand, Freemasonry and how they say they got it from the Egyptians, right? So we're gonna understand what they mean by how they got it from the Egyptians. Johnny Fa. Johnny Fa of Dunbar was leader of the Egyptians or Gypsies in Scotland. Fa was granted a letter under the Privy Seal from King James V. Like I said, we'll go into how King James not only took over the overworld, the world of the living, the working day people, but he also took over the underworld, right? And this is him, giving him the seal, letting him know, right? And we'll show, right? In February 1540, which was renewed in 53 and was addressed to our Lord Johnny Flor, Lord of Earl of Litow, Egypt, established his authority over all gypsies in Scotland and calling on all sheriffs in the county to assist him in execution of justice upon his company and folks who were to conform to the laws of Egypt. So when we understand what they're talking about, we're understanding what, don't confuse this. And we'll be getting more into this Egypt. He is resurrected in the fiction in S.R. Crockett, the Raiders, and Phillips Pullman's trilogy, His Dark Material. Oh, please don't forget to hit the like, the subscribe, and a notification bell so you can be notified whenever we upload new content or go live like now. And don't forget to share, man. Don't forget to share. It's not a crime. And I would like to tell you, please check out my book, Street Scalzi, Knock 'em Out the Box. Yes, it's about two brothers from opposite sides of the law within New York tri-state area who must team up in order to find their father's killer. Back to the show. Right. Right. So Johnny Waney, son of success. Oh, hold on a minute here. My fault. What? Okay. Right. Okay, Johnny Wayne, son of successor of Johnny Fa, Johnny Waney was granted royal authority over all Egyptians in Scotland on May 15th, 40. Right, May 1540. Pay attention, over all Egyptians, this criminal underworld, the blacks, right? Right? America, coming to, I'm reading Coming to America. Don't pay attention to that. Patrick Fa, right? Patrick was the first recorded Gypsy king at Kirk Yatlim. Along with 7 other gypsies, he was sentenced to be transported to the Queen's American for life. He was kicked out the country. Right? He was like, nah, nigga. You go over here, you gonna set up your empire over here. You're a vampire. Right? That's when you see like the vampires and you see them on the ships and they going, this is what they're referring to. Right? William Fa the first. King William I, known as Glede of Naked Wool because of his twat and the shape of his throat, was born about 1700 and died at Cottingham in 1784. Aged around 84, he fathered 24 children and 3 wives. His death in Collingham, by 3 wives, is accounted by William Smith, the Bailey at Kelso, who states that when old Will Fa was upward in 80 years of age, he called on me in Kelso and on his way to Edinburgh. Now I told you this is the main headquarters of the Freemasonic, the Scottish Rite. We see that Queen Elizabeth, when she died, she had a choice of going from the York Rite or the Scottish Rite, and she left from the Scottish Rite, right? Because her last ride was from Edinburgh, right? Look this up. Right, to see the Laird before he died, and also and after successful completing his visit. He also got the length of Collingham when he was taken ill and died. He claimed to be descending from the Johnny Fa, Lord of Little Egypt. Right. La Fa II, La Fa, King of the Gypsies, died in Kirk Yatlim on 9 October 1847, age 94. He was the son of William Fa. William Fa was the innkeeper, owned the Queen, footballer who lived at the Gypsy Palace off the Green and entertained visitors there. And Kello Mail carried his obituary entitled "Death of a Gypsy King," which he was always accounted more respectable character than any of his tribe could boast, to never have been a Gaul during his life. Death of a Gypsy King, which said what? He was always accounted a more respectable character than any of his tribe and could boast of never have been a Gaul during his life. His house continued to be a tourist attraction, and there was reports of old palace on the other side of Kirk Yatlim Green. William died without issue in 1847 when the crown passed to his sister Esther's husband, Charles of Byers. This is 1575, 1861. Charles was an educated man who did much to live up to his role. On his death in 1861, there was a tussle between his many children for the right to be monarch. Of what? Of this criminal empire? The role went to his daughter Esther Fa Bethel, who reigned until 83, when the gypsy culture was in serious decline. Following the gap of several years in 1898, one of her sons, Charles Rutherford, was persuaded to accept the offer, and a ceremonial gypsy coronation was held in 1894. 98, right? This stage, a role was large. By this stage, a role was largely an attempt to bolster tourism. Charles died in 1902, and the title has not been reestablished. In Edinburgh, pay attention to this. An Edinburgh housewife is now thought to be the present queen. A a case belonging to William II can be found in the collection of national museums in Scotland. Now, I told you that the Freemasonic symbol is a vagina symbol, so it's kind of ironic right now when we're talking about Scotland, we're talking about Edinburgh, things that are already given you. Now, when I give you this, again, I'm showing you the system. Anybody who doesn't believe that this is what this really is, they're the fool, right? Charles Battelle was the brother-in-law of William II, and when he died without issue, the title of King of the Gypsies was passed to Charles' husband and his sister Esther. Husband of his sister Esther. Charles was born in 1775 and died in 1861. He was crowned king by the local blacksmith George Gladstone on 25 October 1847. Aged at 70 years. He was succeeded by his daughter Esther Bethy, who was born in the early years of the 1800s and died on 12 July 1883. Born around 1825, Charles Rutherford, known as Charles Bethel II, was the son of Esther Bayeth, right? The Gypsy Queen. Between the death of Esther and Beth in 1883 and the accession of Charles II in 1898, there was no Gypsy royalty crowned at Kirk Yaklum. His coronation ceremony was really a pageant with all the local dressings up and the benefit of photographers. Many photographers of the occasion still exist. Pay attention to this stuff, man. William Billy Marshall, 1792, died age 120, lived in Manningrave, Cutton, Berkshire, Galloway, Scotland. He is buried in the graveyard at St. Cuthbert Church and Cuthbright. Think about it. These criminals buried in the church, right? February, right? The Tinkler Gypsy of Galloway and Andrew McCormick, right? Tinker is a metal worker, right? Remember we talking about Freemasonry, is a metal worker. Tink, in attested form from 13th century as tinkerer or tinkler. Some tinkling groups and Romanian people specialize in trades, and the name was particularly associated with indigenous Irish travelers and Scottish Highland travelers, the name of whom language Bulia Regald means metal workers. However, this used and considered offense. This is used is considered an offensive, right? Now, remember when the Dan and I gave you, their goddess. So, I'm breaking this down to you cannot escape the information that I'm giving you. The term tinkers is a British English may refer to mischievous child. Some modern day nomads with an English and Irish and Scottish influence called themselves techno tinkers or techno gypsies, and a rival of sorts to the romantic view of the tinkers lifestyle. Now, I'm going to prove again that this is Freemasonry. All right, I hope you're ready. Thieves' cant. What is a thieves' cant? Also known as a thieves' argot, rogues' cant, or peddler's French, is a cant, a cryptolect, or argot, which was formerly used by thieves, beggars, and hustlers of various kinds in Great Britain. Remember, I told you the British Empire is the Satanic Luciferian system, right? Great Britain, and to a lesser extent, the other English-speaking countries. It is now mostly obsolete and used in literature and fantasy, role-playing, although individual terms continue to be used in this criminal subculture of Britain and the United States. Right, because they tried to play it switch. They tried to say, "Nah, it ain't. It's mostly obsolete, but it's still used in weird places, Britain and in America." What are you, crazy? Right? It was claimed by Samuel Red that thieves' cants was derived around 1530 to the end that their cozenings, names, and villains might not so easily be perceived and known by Cochlorian and the king of the gypsies at the devil's Auris, right? A cave in Derbyshire. It seems to have originated in this period, but the story is almost certainly a myth, right? So the way it came about is a myth, but what is it there for? To end their cozying knaves and villains might not so easily be perceived and known, right? Let's understand that. These are all criminals, right? Cant is a common feature in rogue literature of the Elizabethan period. This is King James in them, right? In England, and both pamphlets and Elizabethan theater. Remember, I told you writing is magic. This is the black magic, right? Thomas Herman, a justice of the peace, included examples of this corvette for common curators, 1566, and collected his information from vagabonds he interrogated at his home in Essex. He also called it peddler's French or peddling speech, and was told that it had been invented as a secret language some 30 years earlier. The earliest record of canting words are included in the Highway to Splitterfields Highway, Rough and Rugged Roads, by Robert Copeland, 1535. Copeland and Harmon were used as sources by letter writers. A spat of rogue literature, right? Spat of rogue literature. So this black magic, right? Rogue literature started in 1591 with Robert Greene clearly series of 5 pamphlets of Kosniage and Cooney Ketchen. Look these words up. Those were continued by other writers, so the black magic goes on, including Thomas Middleton, The Black Book, and Thomas Dekker, The Bellman of London. These are, 1608 respectively, right? Lantern and Candlelight, 1608 again. These in whatever, I can't say that. Old Parsay, 1612. Cants were included together with descriptions of the social scripture of beggars, the techniques of thieves, including coney catching, gully gropping, and gaming tricks, and the description of lowlives of all kinds, which have always been popular in literature. So we see how they're telling them how they're supposed to operate. Herman included the Canting Dictionary, which was copied by Thomas Dekker and other writers, that such words were known and wide to a wide audience is evidenced by the use of cant words in Jacobean literature. Middleton and Dekker included it in The Roaring Girl or Mulcut Purse, 1611. It was used extensively in The Beggar's Bush, a play by Francis Bertmont, John Fletcher, and Philip Massinger, first performed in 1622, but possibly written in 1614, and the play remained popular for 2 centuries. In the canting section was extracted as The Beggar's Commonwealth by Francis Kirkman as one of the drolls he published for performance at markets, fairs, and camps. So now we see the propaganda taking form to train those all around, the area in this system. I had to use my boy for this picture here. Right, you won't see no more pictures because I really didn't know how to match anybody to the descriptions. Right, the influence of this work can be seen from the independent life taken by the beggar King Claus, who appears as a real character in later literature. The ceremony for anointing this new king was taken from the Thomas Herman and described as being used by Romani people and described as being used by Romani people in the 19th century. Bamperfeld Moore Carroll who published his Parquet Life in 1745, claimed to have been chosen to succeed Claus Patch as king of the beggars, and many additions to his works including the Canting Dictionary. Such dictionaries, often based on Herman's, remains popular, including the Canting Academy in Devil's Cabinet Opened by Richard Head, 1673, and B.E. Dictionary of the Canting Crew, 1699. So we see this devil system, the underworld, right? That's all it is. It's just, the government having control of the underworld. This is why, gangs and stuff like that are always updated, right? And the hedge and or like what is the Chicago guy, Raymond Washington, bumped off, how he was taking, him and Tookie and them were taking him up into the Greek fraternity houses, and these are all Freemasonic institutions, right? Sources. It was commonly believed that Kant developed from Romney. Etymological research now suggests a substantial correlation between Romane words and Kant's, a equivalent in many European languages. However, in England, Scotland, and Wales, this does not apply. The Egyptians, as they were known, were the separate group from the standard vagabonds, and Kant's was fully developed within 50 years of their first arrival in England. Right? So this group, right, they laid it down. Right? Comparisons to Romney words in the Winchester Confessions taken in 1616 with modern Welsh Romani shows high commonality. His record also distinguishes between Romani and Cant words, and again, a attribution of the words to the different categories is consistent with later records. There is doubt as to the extent to which the words of canting literatures were taken from street usage. Why? Or were adapted by those wishing to show that they were a part of a real or imaginary criminal world. Right, so you use this, you start redesigning it. Everybody, it's up for a free fall, right? Whoever can pull it off, and have their rating. That's all this is, right? And I get in. I got a whole show on Kant. I'm a put it in the link, right? Wishing, I gotta remember, I always say that I gotta go through a lot of shows. I wish somebody, go through the show and say, hey, you didn't put the link in, so I could go into that show and actually remember to put it in, right? This is why I say you gotta read this book, The Master's Carpet, right? It's a book from the 1800s. I'm telling you, man, it's gonna give you, the starting ground. I did a reading on here, so if you want, you can just listen to me. I know I'd be messing up, so you probably just want to do it on your own. You know what I'm saying? But I'm telling you where to go. None of this stuff is a secret. I'm giving it to you, right? With a good knowledge of their language, right? Underworld. The transmission has almost certainly been in both directions. Right, let's read that again. Street usage. There is doubt as to the extent to which the words of canting literature were taken from street usage or were adapted by those wishing to show that they were part of a real or imaginary criminal world. The transmission has almost certainly been in both directions. The Winchester Confessions indicates that Roma engaged in criminal activity or those associated with them, and with a good knowledge of their language were using Kant's, but as separate vocabulary. Anagabani was used for days to day, what goes allegamani, whatever that is, right, was used for day-to-day matters, while Kant was used for criminal activity. A thief in 1839 claimed that the Kant he had seen in print was nothing like the cans then used by Roma thieves and beggars. He also said that each of these use distinct vocabularies, which developed the Roma having a cant word for everything, and beggars using a lower style than the thieves. So this would make you go, well, was OG Mac, right, a Freemason, right? We look at what he done, his establishment, of the Bloods in New York, right? You should know by now the COs and all of that played a large part in that, right? So you would have to really understand what is, taking place, right? There's lingo, right? The 120 lessons is a great place to start, to get an understanding of this. Looking into, the Vice laws, people and folk nation, you'll get a good understanding. Zulu Nation, looking for all of these alphabets. Look at their alphabets and you'll begin to have, for any one of those organizations, and you'll notice this similarity. All right. So now we're moving back into, that was just about the Canton, just to show you this Egyptian thing and where the Freemasons get this, or you hear the saying they got it from the Egyptians. Those are the Egyptians that they talking about, people, right? Who lived, Tom Miller, who lived in New York City, was claimed by many as king until his death in 1990. Tom Miller made a brief cameo in the movie Angelo, My Love, directed by Robert Duvall, a film showcasing life in Roma, America in the 1970s. Phoebe Broadway Stanley. Known for being horse dealers, the Stanleys are romantics and arrived in the United States from England in 1857 on a ship called the SS Kangaroo. Those that settled in the Northeast had many queens and kings. Toby Broadway Stanley, right, 1859, 1940, was married to Thomas Stanley and lived her later years in Natick, Massachusetts, where her colorful Vauxhall Roma wagon was spotted in her son's yard by local antique dealers who purchased the wagon from Stanley and subsequently donated it to the Long Island Museum of American Art, History and Carriages, where it was restored and now resides. Whatever. But pay attention to the Massachusetts, right, and, the York and Scottish, right? Undefined Roma. In 1953, Asnianine underwent surgery for ovarian cancer and and I see I'm saying and where like you would understand the Los Angeles thing, but I also did, about the Druze. So you follow these groups and you will have a great understanding. The Druze, the Gypsies, right? Okay. The king, the Gypsies was having a surgery at the same time. And that approximately 600 members of his tribe were camped in or near the hospital in accordance with their law. No amount of hospital discipline would drive them away. She spoke with several members of the band and identified them as Roma people. Right? What it says here? It says approximately 600 members of his tribe were camped in or near the hospital in accordance with their law. No amount of hospital discipline would drive them away. So he was the king of the gypsies, nigga. There was no doubt, right? Angelo Valgoro III. Since 1993, Angelo Valgoro III has been accepted by Venezuelan gypsy communities as their king. Right? Abram Woods was the head of the family of Welsh Roma people in the 1970s. They were musicians who spoke Old Roma dialect. I told you about Lamech, right? And his band of travelers, right? One of them being Naamah, right? The wife of King Solomon, this demon, right? I don't know how to pronounce that, Edrin, so I'm going to just say Edrin. From 2005 until his death in 2017, the Muslim Roma, right, Edrin, was the self-proclaimed king of Roma people in Turkey. He lived in, right, Istanbul. Like, I can't say the name of that, but Turkey, again, remember, this is where the other dude died at on vacation, right? The heavyweight champion boxer Tyson Fury is nicknamed the Gypsy King. He is related to Bartley Gorman, who claimed the title of King of the Gypsies based on his prowess at bare knuckle boxing. The classic daytime gothic television series Dark Shadows features a fictional gypsy king of the gypsies named Johnny Romano during the 1897 arc, right? So with that, I hope you understand, what this gypsy is. I hope you understand how it's a major part of Freemasonry, where we hear, with Clarence X that I go to Medina where the gods are meaner. Right, so he went to the worst part like Brownsville and stuff like that, and gave this information because he knew if he gave it to them, if they went out, their gulliness, nobody was gonna stop them, and so that's how you see this system take shape, right? But remember, a lot of these people are really down with the system. That's why, I said I'm going to talk about Tupac and, the things that happened to him and how you can see how this is all a part of that system. Nonetheless, man, this is Esoteric Daydreams, the awakening, where if you thought the nightmare was something scary, wait till you wake up from the daydream, man. That's scary, man, because then you understand around you how even the most impoverished are controlled by this system. This system has everybody by the balls, right? It has the working man and it has the impoverished man. And this is how, when the impoverished man, right, set up their system, this is how we will see the final results of the communist system right here within America and abroad, right? So until next time, peace. And remember, man, there's nothing better than knowledge, man. Get you some.